You're listening to Wild Culture, a podcast discussing consumer culture and the powerful influence of business strategy. Have you seen that trend? The one where adults fill their mouths with water while their co-workers parade the most bizarre, random objects they own from home, all in a ridiculous, high-stakes attempt to make the other person laugh and spill the water. It's completely absurd and absolutely hilarious. And honestly, it's the perfect microcosm of what we as consumers do every single day. But while they're bringing in random household objects from work, you have to ask yourself, what random, unnecessary objects am I buying? You know, are you the kind of person who has a novelty air fryer, a designer dog collar, a limited edition sauce that costs $40? Maybe you have, cat-shaped salt and pepper shakers. I'm Tanyika, and this is Wild Culture. For those who don't know me, I'm a strategic planner, marketer, researcher, and author, and this podcast is for two groups of people. First, the strategists, those of us who love pulling apart the mechanics of business and what makes people spend. Second, the spenders. If you love buying things, you need to see the complex game going on behind the scenes, that it's so much more than just supply meeting your demand. I want to bring those two mindsets together for our mutual benefit. And there's one fundamental principle behind this that I've followed throughout my entire career. And I'm going to share that with you shortly because it's the whole point of this first episode. But first, a quick confession. I love spending, and I often willingly let myself become prey to some of the very strategies businesses use to lure in consumers, even though I know exactly what's going on. So things like trends, yep, I'm in. New clever ads on TV, love critiquing those. Faster payment gateways, 100%. I'm down with those. I'm the person who, in my 20s, while working in marketing agencies, had 52 pairs of shoes and 21 pairs of jeans that I collected like they were trophies. So if you're a little like me, you'll find no judgment here. But now that I'm a little older and a little wiser with a family, my spending fire is a little bit different, but the consumer consciousness is still there. That's why you'll hear me talk about the good and the evil side of consumer habits. Now, the reason I'm telling you this is that the best place to tackle those strategic maneuvers that send consumers into a tears is always at the very beginning. And for me, that beginning is this simple principle. It takes being a consumer to create one. I get asked one question by people in business all the time, and I was actually asked this just a couple of days ago, which is why I'm bringing it up. That question is, what can we do to know more about our customers? And it always surprises people when I say, stop with the systems and the data and the dashboards. That's not where you start. You start by just being them. You have to be your consumer. Why? Because the people who truly understand what it feels like to spend money on your product are the people who will be best at designing it, innovating it, and selling it. I've seen a strange phenomenon happen to professionals about mid-career, and it's astounding, but it's true. They forget what it feels like to be on the other side of the desk. They stop empathizing. They start pushing, justifying, and post-rationalizing. They do this because their manager wants the security of ironclad evidence pulled from, you guessed it, the data, systems, and dashboards. And if we think about that in the context of what brands do, they need to push what they stand for out into the ether with distinction, with courage, with force. So they get noticed by customers and they want return on investment. But that's business thinking, not consumer thinking. As the people in the business, remembering what it feels like to be a consumer and staying grounded in human things is the panacea to connecting with the people who will buy the things the business is selling. Asking how to get to know your customers is a symptom that you've forgotten how to switch that customer thinking back on once you put your employee hat on. But it's easy to get out from behind that desk with your mind. Just imagine yourself as you are right now, Look at the clothes you put on, the things you surrounded yourself with. You chose them. And tonight, you'll lay your head on a pillow and use sheets that you also bought. Right before you purchased them, you went through a series of internal choices that led you to that specific product. It doesn't matter how quick that process was. It might have been all of 5 seconds. It doesn't matter. But you did that. The point is that even when you are sleeping, you are still someone's consumer. The only difference between buying that pillow and being at work is the difference between spending and earning. That's it. Often, people will think that there's more risk in putting on the consumer hat when you're earning. But like attracts like. And regardless of the side of the desk you sit on, it's all about the customer, the consumer, or the client. If you don't have them, you don't have a business. So if you don't love what your consumer wants or empathize with it, your risks are increased dramatically. What you want to switch on with your business is your awareness of this, because there are not many moments in the day when you're not someone's consumer. It doesn't matter how much you earn or how much you have to spend. Fundamentally, we live our lives in purchases. So when we're building a business, we have to be customers first. You have to get inside their minds to know what's going to land well. Because I'm telling you now, sometimes what lands can't be understood in a spreadsheet. Human beings are far too complicated at times for that. Now, I want to put a big disclaimer here because I'm not advocating for mindlessly spending money, but there are 3 huge strategic advantages that your consumer mindset gives you when you're in business. And the bonus, they actually benefit your customers too. So let's quickly list them and then we'll dig into each one. Advantage 1, you understand the spending comfort zone. Advantage 2, you know the conversion effort required. Advantage 3, you truly get the why behind the purchase, which is the one you won't necessarily be able to get a handle on with data. So advantage 1, the comfort spending zone. Your customer mindset helps you understand how much people will comfortably spend. Now, the ultimate goal is to have a happy customer and not have anyone walk away feeling guilty, feeling remorseful, or walking away from a purchase and never coming back. That's a horrible place for a person to be, and you want to minimize that kind of experience as much as possible. You also want to minimize returns for change of mind, but you also want to ensure that people feel good about how much money they part way with. I'll give you a quick story as an example here. Many moons ago, I dropped out of fashion school at the White House Institute of Design to start my own fashion label. And I started it all down at Bondi Markets there. And what I learned from that experience is that people with market mindset, that's the people who were out to buy on market day, they would easily part with $50 and they would literally buy with a crisp $50 note. But I found that if I priced at $59 or if every item on one of the racks was over $100, then I would lose them. So I'd merchandise my stall to hold the bulk of items at or under the $50 price point. Thinking back to it, that did a couple of things for me. Number one, it made it easier for me to move to a higher volume of lower priced inventory. And secondly, it stopped customers from being intimidated by a rack of expensive items that they didn't have the cash on hand to spend. So that's the customer grabbing advantage in action. Advantage 2 is the conversion effect. Being in that customer mindset helps you figure out how much effort you need to make to turn a customer into a consumer. So if we go back to my days at the markets, just as an example, converting a customer on a $50 item is easy. It's less of a stretch for them to buy. Plus, it's quicker and less expensive to produce a $50 item than it is, say, a $350 item. So the effort that I needed to make was less. The challenge I had, which was the part I needed to reconcile and make business decisions on to scale my business, was that the higher priced items were the ones that got the label into physical retail stores. That's what brought me not just consumers with more money to spend, but clients being those fashion retail buyers, which bought brand credibility and sustainability along with it. That meant the brand advantage was all in the effort required to make and sell those bigger ticket items. Now, the last one is advantage 3, the why you can't data map. This is the big one. This is where being a customer helps you truly get why people buy things. And this is vital because people often can't articulate their reasons for buying. As a consumer, it's really easy to find things to spend money on. We're not short of temptation. We're not short of places. We're not short of influences that will encourage us to buy. We sometimes just struggle with finding the words to state what it is that caused us to buy that thing. On the flip side, in business, it can be quite difficult to find enough customers. If you don't have enough customers to sustain your business, then you have a hobby. So you need to understand what it is that is driving people to buy your product so you can sell enough of it, whatever enough means to you. Now, there are specific rewards people achieve each time they buy something. That's why they buy, to get that reward. And it's not always the physical product. It can be really clear cut what those rewards are sometimes. Food, for example, we know that people buy food for nutrition. It's filling. It tastes good. So it's pleasurable. And sometimes the reward is the social aspect people get from sharing a meal with others. We can see these rewards. They are easy to put into words. They're logical and therefore they're easy for a business to map and to scale from. But other rewards can be as wispy as a feeling. This is where customers go silent. Think about buying art. Gaining a feeling can be the catalyst for buying art, in which case the reward is an aesthetic emotion. That's what drove the consumer to purchase. They want that, isn't it beautiful feeling every time they walk into a room. But feelings can also be the reward people get feeding chronic consumerism. That can be far more layered. It's personal. It can be really deep subconscious programming that is driving the person to spend. And the consumer might not be aware why they are chasing that feeling, and they might not know how to express or rationalize that. And they might not even know how to neutralize that urge. So when we look at things like social media, people consume reels for hours with no tangible gain. It's just dopamine hit after dopamine hit. It makes marketing feel impossible when the cute cat reel gets 100,000 likes and your polished campaign really struggles. If you can empathize with why people buy things without needing logic or data all of the time, you have the ultimate inside advantage. So those are the 3 powerful advantages you get when you stay in the consumer mindset. In business strategy, everything we do fails if you can't truly immerse yourself in the thinking of the consumers you're trying to attract. So your takeaway today is, remember to be your consumer, keep that hat on, and you'll find it much, much easier to create more of them. And that's it. That's today's debut episode of Wild Culture. Thanks for joining. Thanks for listening in to Wild Culture. If you found value in our conversation today, please make sure you follow or subscribe to the show wherever you listen. Taking a moment to leave us a quick rating or review is the best way you can help other curious strategists and passionate spenders find us as well. Bye for now.